Welcome back to In Defense of the Awkward Moment. Today we're going to talk about the Apple Watch 2, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about packaging. I want to talk a little bit about packaging, and I want to talk a little bit about compensation. This is the Pebble Time. You can see kind of about how, if I hold it up in front of the damn camera, you can kind of see about how big it is in conjunction with my hand. I'm really bad at this, I'm sorry. Professionalism. You can kind of see how big that is in conjunction with my hand. And if I were to take this and roll it up, kind of in a shape like watches are when they come to you in packaging, you would end up with something that's, you know, kind of yay big around, and it's like that. Now, I've shown you this for size comparison. So now I want to talk about Apple. And I want to talk about Apple's packaging. Apple historically has been pretty stinking clever with their packaging, especially considering some of the bulkier packaging that I've seen in the past for other things like computers, cell phones, tablets, etc., etc. Apple's been pretty clever with their packaging. There doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of extra room taken up in the packaging. Certainly not an inordinate amount of extra room. I mean, this is an iPhone 7 in its box. Okay, it's a rectangular phone. It needs a rectangular box to fit in, but for the most part, the shape of the box is dictated by the shape of the phone, and the only extra space is taken up by a charger cable and a cord and a manual and headphones. So yeah, the box is a little bit deeper. This is an iPad in the box. Same thing. Box is the same shape as the iPad is. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of used space. Noticing a trend here. This is one of Apple's Magic Keyboards in a box. Same thing. The box roughly fits the size of the object. Here's one of their MacBook Airs in a box. Same thing. Box roughly fits the product. Here's a picture of one of the iMac 27 inches in their box. It's actually really, really clever packaging. There's the iMac, lots of insulation to prevent it from being damaged, as well as a box for the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Mouse. Now, for reference, this is what a Martian notifier looks like in a box. I did a review a while back on a Martian notifier. I'll put a link to it in the comments below so that you can see it. This is what a Martian notifier looks like in a box. Not that big. This is what a Pebble Time steel, I think is what the picture is, looks like in a box. Also not that big. So why did the Apple Watch come in a box that looks like this? This thing is huge. I don't understand that. There's just a watch inside. Yeah, let's turn this a little. If we open this bad boy, never mind the hiss of air and compressed nitrogen. What do we find on the inside that's taking up so much room? Well, the first thing that we find is a neat little sign. This is designed by Apple and Cupertino. Me. This is... I literally don't know what this is. I lift this off, and inside of it is a pull-out thing that says watch with what looks like a set of quick instructions. Very, very cute. And beneath that, oh my God. Beneath that, all your warranty information here, which you can't really see. And then beneath that, all this cardboard for what looks like a shorter watch band. So I'm gonna replace all of that. I'm gonna put that back in to this because clearly my big meat hook over wrist is not gonna need the shorter watch band. Neat that they send you the shorter watch band, but still, really. Next thing, the meat and potatoes. This is a 42 millimeter Apple Watch 2. It's a space gray head on one of their black sport bands. This is actually a pretty big band. I've got a pretty big beefy wrist, and this gets around it. I can fasten it comfortably, like loosely on this last notch, and then tightly on the notch just in from it. This lovely little plastic here that's all over this watch, because plastic on watches. So we're gonna undo that, and then tab to get the rest of this off is around here. Yankee, Yankee. All the rest of that slides away. And you're left with a watch. Wonderful space gray is the color of that bezel, and this is black. We'll come back to this. Yes, we will. We'll come back to this. For now, I'm going to set that back inside of its little resting house there, and then we're going to pick this up and see what else is in here. I pick this up, and finally we get to the bottom of the Apple Watch, where I have a charging brick and my inductive charging cable. Here, I happen to know that this inductive charging cable is quite long. This is like a 6-foot long inductive charging cable, which is crazy long compared to a lot of the other stuff that Apple makes. This is just a standard charging brick that you would see with like an Apple iPhone. Other than that, there's nothing else in this box. This huge, great big, and I want to tell you guys, I'm down to my first knuckle here inside of this box comparatively. See that? Look how much extra box! Look how much extra box is in here. There's literally, there's nothing else in here. What? Okay, so earlier when I said this was a 6-foot cable, it's more like a 3-foot cable. Still not short. It's still a pretty healthy length of cable. Not 6 feet, but still pretty darn long. So yeah, Apple. What happened? I would love to make a joke at this point. I really, really would. Let's turn this a little bit so we're not quite so washed out. Hey, look. I would love to make a joke at this point that Apple maybe was compensating for something with this wearable. Then that's where we really have to get into the second part of this presentation, where I tell you that no, they're really not compensating for anything. I've used lots of Android Wear devices. And I've used Pebbles, and I have used Tizen watches, and I have used other proprietary watches from certain other vendors that shall not be named. And now I've used an Apple Watch, and I have to say, it's probably the single best notifier that I've ever used. Before anybody jumps down on top of me, yes, the battery life is crap. You get like a day and a half out of it. The battery life is crap. You got to take it off every night and charge it. Guilty. Especially if you're going from a Pebble to an Apple Watch, this is somewhat of a jolt. That having been said, I take my watch off every night before I go to bed, because my wife doesn't like me sleeping with my watch on, because I clock her with it in the middle of the night sometimes, because I'm a great big ogre. And when I take it off every night, I put it on top of the inductive charger, and Bob's your uncle. I don't really see that as a huge problem. Yeah, you've got to take yet another charger with you whenever you travel. Yeah, that sucks. It's inconvenient. But it is what it is. I don't. The other thing is, I will say that my Pebble feels a little bit more durable than this Apple Watch does, and I think maybe it is a little bit more durable by simple virtue of the fact that the Apple Watch is just a higher quality thing. There's more stuff inside of it to break, so I worry about it breaking. That having been said, again, I've used just about every kind of wearable OS out there. This thing's amazing. And I really, really do think that one of the things that it benefits from is the fact that iOS is a closed ecosystem. And it's been a closed ecosystem for 10 years. Hasn't really changed in 10 years. And there are a lot of people that are going to jump up and down and say, oh, it's changed a lot. No, it really hasn't changed in 10 years. You go and look at screenshots from when iOS first launched, as opposed to what it is now. Fundamentally, it looks the same. It functions the same. That's actually one of the really, really big selling points to the blind and low vision community. They know they can go and get a new iPhone, and it'll still work exactly the same way that the old one did, because the OS never really changes. Mac OS is guilty of the same thing. It doesn't ever really change. There were some UI differences. There were some UI changes that were made between the early versions of OS Classic and OS 7 and OS 8, and then finally you got to OS X. But Mac OS hasn't fundamentally changed visually since it launched either. They added some color, and they added a little bit of transparency to it and some smoothing, but it hasn't really fundamentally changed either. And when you have something that hasn't changed in 10 years and are allowed to craft an experience around it not changing, with the knowledge that next year the watch will still look right at home because the object that it's paired to will not have changed either. When you have the opportunity to do that, this is what you end up with. You end up with an Apple Watch. This is a great way of turning a stagnated ecosystem into something a little bit better, I think. Your opinion may vary on how you think notifications are served and whether or not you think they're served better. But in terms of looking like the watch functions and belongs with the phone and with iOS, there's nothing out there that has this kind of shine and polish and functionality set. I'm told by a lot of people that Garmin makes some really, really impressive Android Wear devices with really, really impressive battery lives. Yes, this is true. They do. I know somebody who has one. They absolutely love it, and they retail for $600. You can do with that what you will. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're better or they're worse, but you still run into the problem where the Android Wear platform is neat looking and it's pretty, but it doesn't really look like it necessarily belongs with Android. It's just some operating system. Watch OS looks like it belongs in the iOS ecosystem. Regardless of whether or not you like iOS, regardless of whether or not you like the way that it looks, it's difficult to argue that the watch doesn't look like it belongs here. It does. It absolutely looks like it belongs here. Furthermore, even with applications that weren't specifically designed for it, nothing I have used integrates applications that weren't natively built for the phone operating system better than this thing has. Duo and Allo integrate with this thing extraordinarily well. So does Hangouts. So does the Google Nest. So does the Google Nest app that I put on the watch to use. Gmail works. Gmail's got better functionality on here than I have in the earlier versions of Android Wear or Pebble on an Apple Watch. And this is a Google product. For better or worse, that's the way to do it, people. This is an Apple Watch 2, so it's waterproof and shock resistant. And it's got GPS on the inside of it. And quite frankly, for a premium wearable product for the price point, I understand now why these things are the most popular wearable on the market right now. And this really does highlight one of the deficiencies that Android is suffering from. Android is very, very pretty. But when you look at Android, it looks like a bunch of people designed some really, really, really pretty stuff and they put it all in a box together. When you look at iOS, it looks like a bunch of people designed all of these things together with each other in mind, and you end up with that, it's an H word. My buddy always, holistic, I think is the buzzword. Wow! All the notifications. That was really loud. You end up with a really, really holistic design, and everything just feels good. Everything feels right and natural, and the interface is just super duper slick, and I absolutely love it. Also, credit where it's due. Scrolling on a watch face like that to get to the bottom is really, really clumsy. Having that movable crown bezel on that thing for scrolling up and down is a fantastic, fantastic gizmo. Is the Apple Watch 2 necessarily worth the money compared to the Apple Watch 1? I've talked to several people and I've done quite a bit of research online. The only appreciable difference between an Apple Watch 2 and an Apple Watch 1, they say that the Apple Watch 2 screen is a little bit brighter. They say that the Apple Watch 2 has better durability and water resistance, and they say that it has a built-in GPS unit. For me, having a visual impairment, the brighter screen is non-negotiable. I have to have the brighter screen. I have to have the 42 millimeter body instead of the 38 millimeter body. I need that. It makes my life quite a bit easier. The water resistance, I'm a putz. I want to be able to walk around on the rain without worrying about this watch going anywhere. I've had a lot of people tell me that the Apple Watch 1 is actually pretty good at shrugging off casual contact with water. People have told me they've accidentally worn it into the shower before and it's been fine. I had somebody tell me that the Apple salesperson took their Apple Watch off and dunked it in a glass of water. Apple Watch 2 is designed to do this. Which makes me comfortable because I'm kind of a putz and I forget to take my watch off in all kind of places where maybe I should take it off. The GPS thing I don't so much care about. I hear there's a lot of neat stuff that you can do now that the watch has got GPS in it, but quite frankly I haven't really looked at that, and I don't care. I can't be bothered. Clearly I don't run a whole lot. I don't swim a whole lot. I don't actively count my steps. Except that I try to take as few of them as possible. I don't care about a lot of that. As a notifier, though, this is probably the single best notification experience that I've ever had, and it fits in with its host operating system better than anything else out on the market right now, period. And I don't think anybody makes a product that is more aesthetically fitting with the device that they're trying to pair to than this right now. That's just, it's really, really amazing. Don't regret it at all. If you don't care about the water, if you don't care about the waterproofing and you take it off, and admittedly, I was so worried about having this thing on my wrist when I first got it that I was very, very careful with it. If you don't care about that, save yourself $100, maybe more, and buy a first generation. The other reason why I bought a second gen watch is because, this thing's been out on the market for 6 months now. Sooner or later, they're going to launch an Apple Watch 3, and I just wanted as much longevity out of this timepiece as possible. But for people that want a lower cost option and don't really worry about the waterproofing, the Apple Watch 1, same operating system, same operating system, most of the same feature sets, a lot of the great experience that you get. Really, if you've got an iPhone and you're looking for a wearable, you have to try one of these things out. Android Wear works for iOS now, but the connectivity is limited. You don't get all the same features across iOS that you would across Android, which is understandable. But if you've got an iPhone and you're looking for a companion wearable, you have to at least look at one of these things. Credit where it's due. Apple absolutely crushed it with this watch.